Once upon a time there was a little green magic man. His name was Satchkin Patchkin, and he lived like a leaf in an apple tree. The apple tree grew by the hedge at the bottom of a long, untidy garden. Its hedges were tangled, its plants had been strangled by tussocks and hassocks of wild, winding grass. At the other end of the long, untidy garden was the cottage where Mother Farthing lived. Its door hung askew, but its thatched roof was new, and its windows had been repaired. The glass was not shattered, the lead was not battered. They rattled and clattered no more. Mother Farthing had walked to the town with her basket of honey cakes and found a market for them. She bought with the money more flour and more honey and went home to start baking again. Day after young spring day blew brightly away on the wings of the wind. Every morning the old woman trudged up the long hill towards the town and came back at noon with her basket empty. Every afternoon she spent making and baking the honey cakes for the morrow. So many she sold that soon she had the gold to pay for the new latticed windows. A few batches more will pay for a door, she thought, counting the coins in her purse. Now she began to take saffron cakes and gingerbread. Milk she had in plenty and eggs she had in plenty, and she never forgot to thank the little green magic man. Every evening she went down the long untidy garden to the apple tree with the best of the afternoon's baking. She was tired and she stumbled, but she never once grumbled as she dragged through the tangled grass. One day she was tripped by a bramble and slipped and all but fell to the ground. "I will bake no cakes tomorrow," she cried. "Instead, I will come and work in my wicked garden. It is time I made it as neat as the workmen are making my cottage." Bird early next morning, Mother Farthing went into the dew-drenched garden. With billhook and fork she soon set to work clearing a path to the apple tree. As she forked up the twigs and the rosemary sprigs and the grass she had hacked away, the old woman's hand was snatched and scratched by a straggling blackberry shoot. Throwing the forkful of rubbish onto the heap she was making, she turned to cut back the blackberry bush. Then she saw with surprise that juicy and plump all over the clump, fine blackberries were growing. "Here's a find!" she cried. "I must fetch a basin at once and gather the fruit before it grows too ripe." She was pricked, she was scratched, her stockings were snatched, but the old woman did not care, for the fruit was sweet and good. Soon the basin was filled and she had to fetch out a bowl. The bowl was almost full by the time the great tangled bramble had been stripped clean. Mother Farthing was putting the last sweet berry into her mouth to reward herself for her labours, when she heard the sound of a horse coming down the hill. Louder and louder grew the hoofbeats, clippity-clop, clippity-clop, till they came to a stop at the old woman's garden gate. In a moment a man came round by the cottage, a riding crop in his hand. He was a lean man, a mean man, a man without a smile, the old woman's landlord come to collect his rent. Mother Farthing fetched out the gold from the cakes she had sold and paid the farmer his due. As he counted the coins, his eye fell on the bowl of blackberries the old woman had left on the step. "That's a fine bowl of fruit, old woman," he said. "You must have gone far for those." "Not far, sir," said the old woman, dropping a curtsy. "They all came from this old garden." "Indeed," cried the farmer. "Then they are mine, old woman. You have not tended the garden this many a day. The land is mine, and what grows on it wild is mine. You'd better take the dish and basket and fetch me the rest of the fruit." With that he took up the bowl of berries and hurried away. Mother Farthing sighed and looked at the garden. It was long, it was wide, and down either side was a tangle of thorn that served for a hedge. The brambles had scrambled and twisted and rambled everywhere. To gather all the berries for the farmer was a task that was frightful and prickly and spiteful and would take the old woman all day. "If it is to be done, it has best be begun," she said, and went to find a basket. Before she started picking, however, she put a few of the biggest berries from the basin on the table into a little dish with sugar and cream. Then she went to the door and called, "Satchkin Patchkin, hear me lift the latchkin. Satchkin Patchkin, hear me lift the latch." Like the sound of a far-off bell came the sweet reply, "You have forgotten to throw the thimble into the jug." "It was not milk I wanted," said Mother Farthing. "I have no cake for you today, only a dish of berries." "Berries will do very well," said the little green magic man, and leapt onto the table to eat them. Mother Farthing took up the basket and went out to the brambly garden. Far into the afternoon the old woman worked. She was scratched, she was pricked, she was snatched, she was nicked, her black skirt was dragged, and her stockings were snagged, and the pins were pulled out of her hair. At last, with a sigh, she sat wearily down on a fallen tree. "I never knew there were so many blackberries in my garden," she said, pushing the hair from her eyes. "Yet you worked with a will and cheerfully still to clear them away this morning," said the cool voice of Satchkin Patchkin. Light as a butterfly, green as a leaf, he leapt onto the old woman's purple-stained hand. "I was doing it for myself," said Mother Farthing. "Now I do it because I must. My landlord wants the berries." "Then he shall have them," laughed the little green magic man, and began to sing, "Satchkin Patchkin, clear the bramble patchkin. Satchkin Patchkin, clear the bramble patch." Twisting and bending and tearing and rending, the blackberry bushes pulled themselves out of the ground. Loosely and juicily, berries flew into the air. Over the sun-sleepy fields they went, meadow and fallow, hillock and hollow, in a purple, glistening cloud. They fell on the farmhouse like hailstones, staining the windows and smearing the doors and dropping straight down the chimneys. As for the bushes, they tumbled themselves over the hedge, roots ripped, twigs stripped, and fell into the corn. The farmer's wife had the fright of her life and ran into the farmyard screaming. The lean man, the mean man himself, went slithering, slipping, tumbling and tipping into a great heap of berries. Mother Farthing picked up her basket and turned towards her cottage. All about her the evening air was sweet with singing. "My name is Satchkin Patchkin, and I live like a leaf in the apple tree."